On this episode of Exactly How, we're going to show you exactly how to figure out what strategy is best for you. We're going to give you some hacks to help you find more time in your day, and we're going to make sure that you're on the right real estate investing path on this episode of Exactly How.
You're listening to the Exactly How podcast, where you'll hear the underground, closely guarded wealth building secrets of successful people around the globe. Discover exactly how to improve your mental, physical, and financial health. Feel better, make more money, live, give, and prosper in today's exciting, fast-paced world filled with opportunity for those who know exactly how.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Connected Investors Podcast, Exactly How. During this episode, you'll discover exactly how to determine what real estate investing strategy is best for you. There's no cookie cutter approach, but our guest has a great way for you to figure out what's best for you. For those of you who are new, my name is Ross Hamilton, today's host and CEO of ConnectedInvestors.com and PrivateLenders.com. Today, we have the privilege to learn from a guy who has been involved in over 1,000 deals. Think how many roads you have to drive down before you see 1,000 properties. That's a lot of properties. Prior to his career as a real estate developer, he was involved in his family's business, and he's always been an entrepreneur. He was raised by entrepreneurs and kind of grew up around a construction company, so he acquired kind of firsthand knowledge of a lot of the different aspects of investing in real estate. All of that kind of changed when he read a book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you remember on one of our past podcasts, we actually interviewed the individual who helped found that company. So that was a big turning point for him, true to my heart, because it was a big turning point for me as well. And I would describe our guest as a real, innovator to generate wealth. His name is Kito Johnson, and today he's going to explain exactly how to pick your strategy. Kito, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ross. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this topic because I talk to so many of our members, so many real estate investors. When I'm just, hanging out with friends, people are like, what type of real estate investing should I do? It's like the first question that needs to be answered. And doing what you see on TV is not necessarily the right choice for everyone. So I'm really, really pumped about you digging into your strategy here that came right out of your book, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So, Kito, before we jump in on how to pick a strategy, you contribute a lot of your success to a deep sense of faith and purpose. Why do you think this has played such a big role in your success?
So I grew up in a household, you mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship. My father has always been an entrepreneur at heart. The opposite flip side of that is my mother, not so much. My mother was the individual that said, I'm going to be the one to hold down a job because when dad's business is not on top, somebody's got to make sure we got bread on the table. And so with that having been said, my mom just recently retired from the Postal Service after 30 years. My dad, still an entrepreneur, retired, but growing up and seeing that dichotomy between, my dad's school of thought and my mom's school of thought, I realized how important it was to determine my own school of thought. And with all of that going on in our household, we were also and still very much a family of faith. We attended church on a regular basis. And at the end of the day, when things weren't going so great for my dad, the one thing we all agreed on, all stood on, all leaned on was the fact that it won't always be like this, right? And so our faith is what brought us through hard and challenging times growing up. And every business owner, real estate investor, and the like will tell you that it's not always awesome. But if you have something bigger than yourself to hold on to or to look forward to or to lean on, you have a way of achieving accomplishing great things. And so that's where my foundation has always lied.
What an interesting way to grow up. With an entrepreneur, and then to have such a strong female figure, in your life that's making sure that no matter what happens, you're taken care of. It's really really interesting. Did you go to college, or did you just become an entrepreneur and just push right through?
So a little bit of both. So right out of high school, I had one part of my family saying, "You got to go to school, son." Right. So I started in school, at the same time, my dad saying, "Be a part of the family business, son." So I started working with him full time and going to school. And a year and a half into school, I stopped going to school, began to work full time with my father, grow the construction company, etc. And actually, it wasn't until I was 32 years old that I decided to go back and finish my degree, simply because I wanted to be able to say I did it. And certainly, my career was at a place at the time where it wasn't something I had to do. So now I've got the student loan debt to be. Then I got the student loan debt to say I did it.
Yeah, that's the real certificate you hang.
Right.
Is the debt there? And I asked that question. Just because we grew up in a very, very similar way. And I went to school. I went to a community college, and I was going to transfer to get a 4-year degree. But by the time I was ready to transfer, I already owned over a dozen properties and kind of figured out my path. So I went a different direction. Yes. But every now and then you're hanging around some people that are very proud of their college degrees, and they look down on individuals who don't go through that process. So that's not the way the world is anymore. You got to follow your passion and make your own decisions. So yeah, thanks for sharing that with me. For everyone on the line, what makes the Exactly How Financial Freedom podcast very unique is every show comes with a detailed action plan. So as we pull all of these steps and these questions and all these insights out of Kito's head, we're going to make sure that it's all developed in an action plan for you right at exactlyhow.com. All of the notes, the takeaways, and even some free gifts that Kito is going to give you can be found at exactlyhow.com. In addition, you can throw your name into a drawing to win access to the pre-MLS. This is how anyone can find properties in their town for pennies on the dollar. This is our flagship software we sell for $3,000. But today, someone's going to get it for free. So if you're watching this live, visit exactlyhow.com right now. Throw your name in the hat. Maybe you'll be the lucky winner. In just a few moments, we're going to announce the winner. So, Kito, for those of the individual on the line who are brand new, we have a lot of very experienced investors that are on the line and a lot of people who are dabbling or thinking about getting into real estate on the line. Let's talk about really figuring out, defining strategy. So we're going to help you figure out what your strategy is, but can you just kind of go over some samples of what a real estate investing strategy is, the basics? Yeah,
so it starts with understanding or having an end goal in mind. I mean, there are hundreds, I would say, strategies. There's a lot of strategies, right? And what I discovered is that most people equate real estate investing, especially newbies. Most people equate real estate investing to what they know somebody else is doing. So if they have an uncle who's a landlord or has rental property, then when they hear real estate investing, they automatically think about their uncle. Or if they have a friend, or like most people in this HGTV phenomena who just love all these fix and flip shows, they hear real estate investing and they assume that is a sum total of an investor. You buy a property cheap, right? You renovate it in 30 minutes and then you sell it for $50,000 profit. That's an investor to them. But what I've discovered is there are so many different strategies. The top three I often talk about are buying and holding as a landlord. Wholesaling is a big one. And then also the fix and flipping, like we mentioned. But there are some questions you have to ask yourself to determine how or which one of the big three makes sense in your life where you are right now.
Great. So basically, for purpose of this show, for someone who's new, we're going to talk about fixing and flipping, wholesaling, renting. Maybe we'll dive into some other strategies as well. Prior to the call, Kito and I were talking, and he broke it down into asking yourself these three questions. Your time, your money, and your credit is kind of where you start, Kito, to figure out where someone needs to be. Yes. So let's go ahead and just step number one, your time. Kind of walk me through what that means and some of the questions someone would ask themselves.
Right. Awesome. So how much time do you have? How much free time do you have available to invest in your new real estate investing business? Right. Be honest with yourself. If you work a 9 to 5, or maybe you Maybe work 60 hours a week. Maybe after work you have a family to take care of. All of that's fine, well and good. The question is, how much time do you have available? Is it 2 hours in the evening? Is it 1 hour every Thursday? Is it Sunday afternoons? Like, what time do you have available? And then the next step would be asking yourself, how could you perhaps free up some more time? Are there areas in your life that you could cut, right? Or maybe you get an hour for lunch at work. Maybe you could pack a lunch instead and free up some additional time over your lunch break 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week in order to create more time. But that is really the first step. How much time do you have to invest in your real estate business?
Yeah, and that's a really good assessment for you to go through on the line here. And in a few I think it was episode number 7 or 8, and Exactly How, we went over the perfect diet plan for a real estate investor, and it happened to be fasting, to where you actually don't even eat lunch. And I personally did that because I have a daughter now. I needed more time. So I figured out a way to find an extra roughly 7 or 8 hours a week, almost a full day, just by changing one little habit.
Right.
That worked out well for me in my life. Are there any, common threads you see with individuals of things they might be able to give up or reprioritize to find a little more time?
Absolutely. It's called social media. It's the first thing we do in the morning, right? It's the last thing we do at night. And every hour in between, we're on our phones. We're checking the new Instagram feed or post or Facebook message, right? We would be surprised at the number of hours we can create. I have an iPhone, and once a week I get this pop-up that says screen time. This is how much time you spent on your phone this week. And it is amazing how much time we could create if we were to fast from social media. Wow.
That's a really good tip right there. And as much as we're on social media, our podcast is on social media, we know your eyes are there. So let me just dive in just a little deeper, Kito, on that. What is the balance between being productive, right? Because I get the same notifications on my phone, but when I'm on my phone, I'm working, right?
Yes.
So I guess it's just looking for that to trim the fat. When you're not working or learning, right? Anything you're doing outside of that is usually just gossip or kind of getting your heart rate up for no reason on things you can't control.
Right, exactly. Right. By all means, when we fast from social media, make sure we still watch the podcast. Other than that,
yeah.
But I absolutely agree with you. Most of what we do nowadays is on our phone. We run our businesses from our phone. And so there certainly has to be a balance in understanding what is productive, what's going to add to your bottom line, and which is inclusive of the knowledge that you intake, versus what is just a waste of time, looking at somebody's wedding photos and you weren't even invited to the wedding.
Oh, all right. Well, great. So we talked about time. We gave you a few quick hacks. You can stop eating like me, or you can jump off social media, which is a good idea as well. And let's talk about the money aspect now, because you break down time, money, and credit. So talk me through the money.
Yeah. So again, how much money, how much discretionary funds do you have available at the end of the week or 2 weeks or whatever your pay period is? How much cash can you set aside that's not allocated somewhere else that you can use to invest in your business? I mean, when we start talking about strategy, you do need cash for lead generation and follow up and all of those things that come with the particular strategies. So you're going to need some money for that. So what cash is available to you at the end of the day to be able to apply to your investing business?
Yeah. Are there any, after we go through these three, I want to do an example with you and run someone through. So at the end of the week, how much extra money do you have? And I guess it's the same thing as far as trimming your time. What fat can you trim?
Exactly. Can I pack a lunch instead of going to lunch with the rest of the team members, right? Can we do meal prep? How often do we treat ourselves to the movies? Is it once a week? Okay, maybe we can go to a matinee instead of going to the night show, right? Again, just like with the timepiece, we'd be surprised at the number of areas where we could trim and save money. And I was taught years and years ago, just from a budgeting perspective, to take the time just for a week. Just take the time, and every time you spend $1, write it down, right? And then come back at the end of that 7 days and look back and see where your cash went. And more times than not, we find out that we had a little extra cash we could have held on to if we had just made some different decisions along the way. Starbucks adds up, believe it or not.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was actually going to show you if the coffee place that I get my coffee from, if you bring your own cup, it almost cuts the cost down by $1.
Wow.
It's just these small things that add up over time. Mm-hmm. And that is a fantastic takeaway, Kito, as far as just for 1 week, just writing down what you're doing with your time, what you're doing with your money. And then you can be like, man, for a week, that doesn't really impact, but then just times 52.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, right.
Times 52. And then you're like, look at all those hours. Look at all that life I can have back. So great. How much money do you have? And guys, for anyone who doesn't have any extra money, living paycheck to paycheck, we'll run through an example of how you can, still get to the other side of where you want to be shortly here. But now let's talk about credit. Mm-hmm. So talk me through the whole, actually, you know what? I got to put the brakes on for a second because we have to announce the winner of the pre-MLS software. They went to exactlyhow.com. They threw their name into the hat, and now they have a full software that shows them where all the deals are. They can see every landlord in their town, every flip that happens in their town, access to all the private lenders. This is the one tool that every real estate investor needs. And if you're saving your money on Starbucks, even if you don't win it, I'd go ahead and buy this thing. And the winner of this week's contest is Leslie Shimaki. I probably butchered the last name there, but Leslie, thank you so much for being a listener and commenting on so many of our YouTube videos, of our Facebook posts, and you're gonna be hearing from us real shortly. So congratulations, Leslie. All right, great. Now that Leslie is taken care of, let's go ahead and talk about the credit aspect.
Sure thing. So credit is important, and I know we've been told, and it's true, that you can be a real estate investor with none of your own money, none of your own credit, and that's great. That's absolutely true, but that doesn't have to be, and nor do I believe it should be, your end goal, right? You can start where you are, right? But the end goal should be, if we have credit challenges, to fix those, right? To overcome those challenges. So again, there's no right or wrong answer to any of these time, money, credit questions, but being clear on your own personal answer is going to make all the difference. So what is your credit like? How would you rate it? When's the last time you checked your FICO score, or you went to any one of the 3 credit bureaus just to get a copy of your report? What I've discovered is a lot of people have no idea where they stand, or they're basing their belief on where they stand based on something they heard or knew about their own personal situation years ago. And a lot of those things may have changed. Yeah.
I mean, if cash is king, then credit is queen. And yes, we all know who makes the decisions.
Yes.
Right? So it's it's really important to watch, to monitor, to understand your credit, even in the the hard money lending space. Mm-hmm. We run privatelenders.com, where you can have lenders compete for your business, not based off your credit. However, they always look at your credit just to quote you on the rate.
Yes.
Even if I can make a little extra money because their credit's not bad. And that compounds over time. It takes money out of your pocket, which stops you from doing the things you want to do. So great. Any tips on improving credit? Are there any reputable credit repair companies that you personally have used and seen success with?
None that I've personally used. I do. There's an event that I host called the Generational Wealth Summit, and recently I had someone by the name of Nativa Hurd, who is a credit specialist. You can Google her, Nativa Hurd, but she really has a system built around how a person can take their own personal control of their credit and go through the repair steps, as opposed to necessarily hiring an outside company. I know there are, companies for fees, but none that I really have experience with or recommend. I would say the very first thing, I kind of mentioned it earlier, first thing is just determining where you stand. Call the 3 bureaus, go online, find the 3 bureaus, and get a copy of your report. Many times there are inaccuracies from one report to the next that can make a huge difference.
Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff there. Yeah, it's credit is definitely a shaky thing. It's easy to mess it up even if you don't mean to sometimes. And
yes.
Just maxing out credit cards and paying the minimum payment for too long, or, there's all sorts of different things that can that can hurt your credit. And then if you're buying rental properties, now you have to put all these deposits down for all the utilities, and it just creates a mess. So these are fantastic exercises that Kito has kind of went over with your time, your money, and your credit. And I definitely strongly advocate everyone visiting exactlyhow.com, taking a look at the show notes, and just following what we're going to have for you, at that website. And you wrote a whole book about this. Do you want to talk just for a second about your book?
Sure thing. So my book is Real Estate Wealth: Remove the Guesswork from Investing and Create a 6-Figure Strategy. It is an Amazon #1 bestseller. I've had thank you. We've had great response from it. And I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I wrote this book. I've been in the industry 22 years now. I acquired my first property at the age of 20. And I've coached and mentored a whole lot of people. And what I discovered just over the last few years, I wrote the book last year, but what I discovered was a theme. There were a whole lot of folks that came through my systems or came to my events. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the seminar, they'd say, I want to be an investor. And I'd say, okay, well, what type of investor? And, they'd say, well, I want to be a fix and flipper. Or next week, the same person would come back, and next week it's a different strategy. And next week they come back. And I found that people were just all over the place. Those that got the YouTube education, and even those who paid thousands and thousands of dollars for education. And I'm all for both. But at the end of the day, if you can't clearly articulate what strategy makes sense based on your current situation today, that means you have to stay there. But today, what strategy makes sense? And if you can't articulate that, you're starting way behind, and that's why I wrote the book, to help people really dig into determining where should I start. Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure to have a link to that book on your page at exactlyhow.com. And just a few days ago, Kito, I was someone was interviewing me for their podcast, and they asked the question, what do you think holds most people back? And my response was confusion on what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Right? People have all this energy inside, they're ready to go. And it's a bit of shiny object syndrome. You can't dabble in anything. You have to kind of lean all in. Yes. So it's, half doing things. I used to compete semi-professionally in BMX. Mm-hmm. And if I was pedaling toward a ramp and I hit that jump and I changed the trick I wanted to do midair, I was going to be flat in my face. So I think it's really awesome that you wrote this book. And I think a lot of people skip over this step for all the reasons that you mentioned. Do you mind if we kind of go through a little mock exercise here?
Oh, sure.
Basically just, ask me some questions, and I'll start off as the person who is, kind of behind the 8 ball, and we'll see what a good strategy might be. Okay. Absolutely. All right. So I understand you're ready to jump in the investing game. Tell me, have you given some thought to where you want to start, or what strategy? What do you want to do? Well, I want to wholesale properties. Okay, awesome. Wholesaling is a great strategy. Tell me why you chose wholesaling. Well, because it seems like a good place to start. You get to kind of practice with wholesaling. You don't need, from everything I read, you don't need much money to do it. And it seems like that's where everyone starts. So that's where I want to start. Gotcha. That is true. A lot of people end up starting there. There are usually reasons why they start there. Now, before I say this, I'll say I have some partners who
wholesale, and that's all they do. And they wholesale 15 houses on a monthly basis.
Wow.
So you can certainly scale and grow a wholesaling business if you do it the right way. But when it comes to wholesaling, I think the reason that most people start there is because when they answer the time, the money, the credit question, they realize that they probably don't have a lot of money. That's usually why they start there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the credit may or may not be shaky. The number one thing you do have to have as a wholesaler is time. So tell me, what does your time look like?
Well, I work about 70 hours a week, and I kind of help raise 3 kids. So not much time.
Not much time. Okay. Are you fulfilled? You like what you do? How are you fulfilled on your job?
I drive trucks. So I like to travel, but that's about it. Gotcha.
Okay. So what about the other questions? I understand where you are with time. We're not working with a whole lot of time right now. You got discretionary funds. What's your money like?
No, all the money goes to the kids. I got 2 ex-wives. They're expensive.
I've always heard it was cheaper to keep her.
Or him.
Him. Yes.
Exactly.
So what about your credit? What's your credit like?
Well, through the divorce, it didn't turn out too good.
Didn't turn out too good.
Yeah. So some credit card bills got run up and not paid, and house went into foreclosure.
Okay. So you mentioned you work about 70 hours a week. I understand you got 3 kids in the afternoon to tend to in somewhere or the other. We're going to have to figure out which one of these 3 areas we can free up some. So let me ask you this. Is it easier for you to free up some time? Can we talk through that process? Or is it easier for you to put your hands on some cash?
I'd say that, well, cash isn't going to happen unless this wholesaling business takes off. But yeah, I can probably free up some time. Okay.
Well, perfect. Well, it sounds like you have certainly chosen the right strategy, because wholesaling is a way that we can create some extra cash and then later use it to work on credit. Number one thing we got to have, again, is time. So we can talk further about what it's going to take to open up some more time resources in your life. You said you work 70 hours a week. That's a lot more hours left in the week. So I think there's some hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on Sundays, I like to watch football, so I don't want to give up any of that time.
So let me ask you this then. How important is it for you to create some additional cash, for you to work yourself out of the job you're in? Like how much are you willing to sacrifice? And if so, what are you willing to sacrifice to get there?
Well, I know this, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm never going to be able to retire. And, I'm not going to be able to help my kids out much more than I currently do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we need to talk through how we can watch a little less football. We don't want to take it away from you completely. And then there's Saturday. We can talk through some other days. But at the end of the day, if you want to achieve your goal, and I believe you do, and I'm here to help you do that, we just need to talk about where we can cut and free up some time. That's going to be our first step. And once we do that, we'll take the next step. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. How much time do you think we're really talking about? Like, how much time do I really need to be able to free up here?
So the reality is, more than the time itself is really going to be the consistency. Now, I would challenge you to start with, if we can figure out 5 hours a week, if we can just start with 5 hours a week and scale up from there. So whether we dedicate that over one day or chunks throughout the week, but that's where we would start. I would say 5 hours a week. That's not too hard to accomplish, I wouldn't think, is it?
Yeah, no, that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, great. Thanks for walking me through that. Yeah, that
absolutely.
And I think our members on the line here would get a lot of value out of that, and just taking that honest self-assessment up front. Mm-hmm. Now, we're coming toward the end of this. We have a few other segments to cover, but if someone, just walk me through some of the different scenarios. If someone doesn't have time but has a lot of money, mm-hmm. what's a good strategy for that person?
If they don't have time, but they have money, then buying and holding is a good strategy, or could be a good strategy. Of course, that strategy does then need to be coupled with some credit, so that you can leverage better long-term rates on, assuming that you're leveraging your finances and credit. If you have enough cash to pay all cash for a property, then that's a different story. But again, when you have cash, buying and holding makes sense as a strategy. And then two, one of the things that I want to make clear is, once you as an individual determine where you stand with your time, money, credit, who else in your life could you potentially connect with or partner with to leverage what they have that you don't have? That's just as important to talk about here as well. So there may be somebody with plenty of time or maybe even good credit, but does not have the cash. So how can you form some sort of partnership and do some things together?
I'm gonna jump in there for a split second, because so many of our members, they write inside the Connected Investors Forum and they're trying to figure things out. They can't quite get a loan because their credit's not right. Mm-hmm. And when I first started, maybe Kito, you're the same way. I started and instantly built a support group around me in my town of other people that were doing it. And when I felt a little down, my partner was doing well. When he was a little slow, I was moving kind of quick. So just having those individuals that you're talking to, you're working with, you're partnering with, individuals who have a lot of experience, they might not have to bring the time or the money to the table for you to get funding. And if I have a lot of experience, a lender would love to give me money, but I don't have the time to do it. Right. So if someone married me with a potential deal, yes, it's a really good, it's literally the excuse removal that you need from your life, thinking, I can't do this. You need to kind of marry some other resources. If you want to talk a little more about that, I'm just so passionate about that because I've seen it work so well in so many people's lives.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you certainly covered it very well. That's true. There's always somebody there should be, when you connect with other individuals, there's somebody around you that is stronger in an area where you aren't necessarily strong. And that is, most times when we talk about leverage, we're talking about leveraging somebody else's credit or leveraging your credit with the bank's money. But leverage is just as important when we talk about leveraging other people resources. And I think that's good to consider as well.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see we're at the Connected Investors office here, and we have a lot of people that work through here. I could never grow my business the way I did without leveraging other people's expertise, without leveraging other people's time. So real estate investing is not a hobby. It's a real business. So it's a good skill to sharpen, and a good resource to kind of, look at whenever you're falling short.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very, very, very helpful. Well, great. I mean, Leslie, the winner of the pre-MLS software, you got a little more time because now you don't have to go down to the courthouse to look up data. You have it all right there. So you got a little more time there.
You're right.
Let me ask you a question, Kito. What do you think your life would be like if you never got into real estate investing?
I certainly have a whole lot less options, right? Oftentimes people ask me, what's your definition of wealth, right? And most times people say wealth has to do with buying what you want when you want it, or flying where you want when you want to, or just having all this discretionary cash. For me, wealth has always been options, right? The ability to make a decision without first having to ask myself, can I afford it? Or what's my boss going to say, et cetera, et cetera. Having options. And, my family and I'm a single dad, single father of two. And we're blessed to be able to do things and go places that had I not gotten into real estate investing, there's no doubt in my mind that those opportunities or those options would not be available to us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Now, Kito, do you mind if we jump into the rapid fire part of the podcast?
Oh man, I don't know. I wasn't prepared for the rapid fire. Let's just go.
So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and it's just the first thing that kind of pops into your mind. I'm kind of all over the board here. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how strict were your parents?
6.
Get up early or stay up late?
Stay up late.
How many hours of sleep do you get?
5.
favorite or most recent book that you read?
Pass.
Well, you said you liked Rich Dad Poor Dad, so I know that's one of them there.
I'll tell you what it was. It was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I can't think of the author's name.
Interesting.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It really deals with your thought process, your mentality.
Hey, that's the seed of everything that happens in your whole life. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Superman.
There you go. What is something everyone should do less of?
Sleep.
Something everyone should do more of?
Sleep.
Will people visit Mars in your lifetime?
Yes.
All right. And Bitcoin, bang or bust?
Eventually, bang.
Eventually, bang. All right. Thank you so very much for jumping on the show, Kito. This was a fantastic episode and a great exercise in prioritizing your entire life, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. For everyone who is still with us, congratulations. You made it to the end of the show. Only 30% of people ever actually finish a podcast, which means you really liked what you heard here. You connected with us. So all we ask is for you to give us a thumbs up, like this video, share it, give us some sort of interaction. We spend a lot of time, energy, and effort bringing you this information, and we just thrive on your interaction. So thank you so very much for being here. We have some fantastic podcasts in the archive at exactlyhow.com, so you can binge out right there. And we have some great episodes coming up. So until next time, I'll see you inside Connected Investors. Bye-bye.
The Connected Investors app connects you with investors, notifies you of available properties, helps locate cash buyers, and secure private funding to close deals. Set up in seconds to become a member of the Connected Investors social network. Now you can scroll through your main feed to find cash buyers, see investment properties not available to the general public, and network with investors by adding your own comments to a thread to keep the conversation going. The Control Center is your connection to add properties to sell, start new discussions, connect with local investors, and even find private funding. The Notifications tab will keep you alerted to new investment properties and offers. You'll also find new friend requests to connect directly with the community to build your network. From the property marketplace, you'll be able to find, favorite, and make offers on investment properties. Download Connected Investors today to find, figure, fund, and flip investment properties on the go.